Welcome to the Teacher's Compass podcast. I'm your host, Louise Schwartz, a former teacher turned life coach, and I'm here to offer guidance, direction, and practical support for teachers and teaching assistants who are feeling overwhelmed or questioning their place in education. Hello, and welcome back to another episode of the Teacher's Compass podcast. So, how are you feeling being a teacher? Third week back in January. How's it going? I hope that you've found some time over the last few weeks to just relax and do some things for yourselves and not just be solely focused on school, the classroom, and the amount of work that you've got to get done. So today's episode, I thought I'd talk a little bit about my journey and how I got into teaching and also why I left teaching. I know I talked a bit about this in the very first episode, but then I haven't really spoken about it much since. So I thought we've got some new listeners to the podcast. I'll tell you a bit about my story, why I decided to leave, and what I'm doing now, because I think that intrigues a lot of teachers. What on earth could you possibly do outside of the classroom? Well, believe me, there are so many things you probably wouldn't know where to start. I started teaching 20 years ago. I spent 20 years being a teacher. And I have to say, for most of that time, I loved my job and it was just fantastic, especially as a music teacher. I got to do all the fun stuff like making music and teaching ensembles and running choirs and all the extra stuff as well as the classroom stuff, all of that extracurricular stuff. It was just brilliant. We did shows, we did leavers musicals. There was just so many different things that I absolutely loved doing. And I'm not sure that there was actually one moment that made that change. I think it was a series of things that had sort of changed the way I looked at my job and actually changed my job. There were so many different things that I was taking on. And I think it got to the point where I just thought, this isn't fun anymore. And my whole outlook on life is, if it's not fun, why am I doing it? If it doesn't bring me happiness and make me smile and I don't enjoy it, what's its purpose? It took me a long time to realise that the element of teaching that I used to love and enjoy and that was fun wasn't anymore. And I think maybe I was in a little bit of denial that something that I'd loved was now bringing me stress and unhappiness and absolute exhaustion. Honestly, I had got to the point where I was dragging myself out of bed every morning and it just wasn't fun. It really wasn't fun. It did take me a very long time to pluck up the courage to speak to anybody about how I was feeling. I used to think maybe it was the particular school I was working in, so then I changed schools a couple of times to see if that would help, and nothing brought back that enjoyment to teaching. None of those new schools that I worked at gave me what I had had at the beginning of my teaching career. So I thought, well, it can't be the post that I'm teaching in. It can't be the school that I'm at, because having moved a couple of times, I was hoping to have found that spark, and I didn't. I just could not get that enjoyment back from something that I'd absolutely loved doing. So then I started to open up to my husband. We've known each other a very long time. We've been together since we were teenagers, so we know each other really well. So I think deep down he knew that something wasn't right. So I started to talk to him and just saying, I don't enjoy it anymore, and I don't love going into school anymore, and I'm tired, I'm exhausted. I can't do this anymore. One of the things I do remember thinking just before I handed my notice in was, I've already taught for 20 years. And I am not at the age yet where I can retire. In reality, I've got another 20 years of this. And deep down in my heart, I knew that I couldn't do another 20 years. So if I already knew that now I cannot do this for another 20 years, then why am I still doing it? Am I going to wait another 5 years before I come back to that realization? Am I going to wait another 10 years? Honestly, I just felt like I was wasting my life and I was doing something that wasn't making me happy. So change it. You read all these quotes, don't you, on social media? I like to scroll through quotes. You're not a tree. You don't have roots. You can get up and move. And if nothing changes, nothing changes. And it's all very well reading those things. But I think at some point you have to actually act on it. And for me, that was handing my notice in. I didn't really have any idea what I was going to do. I sort of had a rough plan. My idea was I wanted to set up a music education business and have that be a job role that I enjoyed, but also that was fulfilling, because I was still going to be doing something that I was good at, that I'd trained to do. And, that was something that was hopefully going to bring me that enjoyment back into my life. So I didn't have another job to go to, but I just said to my husband, I can't do this anymore. So my short-term plan was I'll do some supply work whilst I'm figuring everything out. Hopefully that takes some of the pressure off in terms of teaching, because you don't have quite as much of the prep and planning and marking to do when you're doing supply. So I was thinking, right, that will give me some more time back so that I can use that time to kind of build the business. And when things are swinging in the favour of the business, in that that's bringing in enough money, then I could drop down the amount of supply that I'd need to do, and that will balance things out. So that was my kind of rough idea. I guess we're lucky as teachers that we do have that opportunity to fall back into supply if we need it. I know it's not for everybody, and for me, I don't think I could have done supply long term. But as a short term solution, I thought that's something that I can do. And I quite like variety. I don't like doing the same things all the time. If you listen to last week's episode about human design, I am a manifesting generator. And as that energy type, I like to be multi-passionate. I like to spin all the plates. I like doing lots of different things. I don't like getting stuck in routines that kind of bog me down. So actually doing supply was okay for me because I liked that variety. I mean, that's something that doesn't suit everybody, does it? But it suited me, and that was going to work for me. That was fine. But actually, I ended up not doing supply for very long because I had a conversation with my brother. We'd met up in Manchester with the kids to do a Crystal Maze experience day, and we'd been and done that. And as we were walking to a pizza restaurant that we were going to head to for lunch, we started chatting about jobs. And I said to him, I've handed my notice in and I'm finishing in 5 weeks. And he said, you've handed your notice in. Why? What? Kind of. So I explained to him just how I was feeling, and that this was, a turning point. I was handing my notice in. I was going to do some supply, but I was going to set up my own business. He had already been running his own business, which was a software business. He'd designed and developed some software to use in clinics. And so he'd been running this business for probably nearly 15 years. And he said to me, I am totally the opposite. I don't want to run my business anymore. I would like to go and get a job. He developed the software and got it to a point where it was all working smoothly and everything was okay, but wasn't enjoying the day-to-day running the business. So he was like, well, why don't you run my business and then I can go and get a job and we can work together and, that'll be great. I think back to that conversation so many times now because honestly, that was like something inside me sparked and made me think, yes, that's a brilliant idea and that's definitely something I could do. And oh my gosh, here's the solution. I guess had I have not handed my notice in, my brother and I might never have had that conversation. But because he knew I was looking for something else and wanted something more and I'd handed my notice in, we kind of started talking about it and discussing it. And that's exactly what happened. It took a little while for things to fall into place, for him to apply for the job that he'd been looking at, which didn't work out to be the right one, but he has since found the right one. So it did take us a couple of months to sort of, get things in place. But during that time, I did some supply and worked a few things out my end. He did a few things his end. And that's exactly what happened. My career has taken an absolute U-turn. If you'd have said to me 12 months ago that I would be running an online software business, obviously with the support of my brother, he does all the tech side of things, but I do the day-to-day stuff, I don't think I would have believed you. That moment, that conversation changed things massively for me. So you just don't know, do you, as a teacher, where things might take you. Now, obviously, during COVID, we had to get pretty good at tech. So I've not been too bad, the tech side of things. I can run a computer and I can work online. So all of those skills that I'd picked up through teaching and through working in COVID. I mean, I was the crazy music teacher that set up a YouTube channel and was doing live stream singing assemblies every week to the children in their homes, because that's the sort of crazy person I am. But all of those things had really helped me to understand technology and how software works. And all of the different programs that we'd used over the last few years in school had sort of given me that experience, so that when this opportunity arose, there it was. That was the solution for both of us. And it's working for both of us right now. So I started working with him in June. So about mid-June time, after I'd finished off a few commitments that I'd made to some schools doing some supply, I kind of jumped in full time. And honestly, it's the best thing I've ever done. I love working with my brother. We went through a time where we weren't particularly close, but now we're really close and we speak pretty much all the time, albeit most of the time we're just talking about work. But it's given me time freedom. I can choose, when I want to work and when to fit things in, and I can build things in and around. My car went to the garage last week, so I could go and drop that off and then pick it up again and work around that. I didn't have to plan that for, a school holiday. I've got a doctor's appointment this week. That would never happen, would it, whilst you're teaching? That would have to be during holidays, or don't bother, it's fine, you don't need to go. So yeah, the freedom that this sort of job role has given me is incredible. And working with my brother, it's brilliant. I love it. We're on the same wavelength. We think along the same lines. And quite often, if I need to do something or he needs to do something, the other one's like, oh yeah, that's fine. You fit in and around. It's brilliant. I love it. So from going the last sort of 6 years of and ahhing, what should I do? Oh my gosh, I literally took a leap of faith, handed my notice in with no plan other than I'll do supply until something works out. And then all of a sudden this opportunity comes into play with my brother. Honestly, the universe has answered my prayers. Then finding out recently about human design, I now realise that my strategy is to respond. So from just that conversation with my brother to that opportunity presenting itself and I responded to it, that is the way I'm meant to work. And I think that's how I've found the level of fulfillment that I've got now, is because I am aware of the way life works best for me. I have become aware of how energy around me flows and how I can sort of take those opportunities that are presented and have them work out for the best for me. If you are in a position at school where you're struggling and you're wondering whether handing your notice in is the right thing to do, I would honestly urge you to go and find out about your human design. Work out what your energy type is. So there are 5 energy types. I am a manifesting generator, but there are also projectors, reflectors, generators, and manifestors. So one of those will tell you the way that you work best. So for me, I like spinning all the plates. I like doing all the things. So not only am I running my brother's software business, but I am also setting up my own business, the Teacher's Compass. I am working one-to-one with teachers who are struggling, that need some support, that know how to get out of the situation they're in. I can help them because I've been there. And I'm also trying to involve a lot more human design with my coaching. So I'm looking at setting up some workshops that are specific to teachers, but that use human design to guide them along the best path for them. All of these different energy types have different ways of working. And if you can understand your energy type, then that will help you moving forward with your path, your journey, because it's unique to you. Nobody else is going to think in the same way as you. Taking that leap of faith was the best thing that I ever did. I can totally understand that that's not for everybody, but having faith that making that decision was the right one for me, ultimately, has changed the direction of my life completely. I was a bit scared at the time handing my notice in, because if you haven't got a job, you think, well, you've got all those bills to pay, and you need money to fuel your car, you need money to buy the shopping, you need money for, sorting the kids out with anything that they need. But actually, if you look at it in simpler terms, there are always jobs that you can do. It doesn't have to be in teaching. There are other jobs that you could apply for that you could do. But with your teaching skills and knowledge that you've got, you can always do supply. There are always ways to make money. But if you're stuck in that job role that's not making you happy, you've got to be brave enough to make that decision to actually act on making a change. You can't just say, oh yeah, maybe I'll do that. Yeah, I'll have a think about it. If you don't actually change something and make that decision, then life will always carry on as it is. I'd sort of thought maybe I could set up doing a side hustle. I'll sort of start making some money on the side, and then that will give me an option then to make enough money, and then hopefully I'll be able to leave teaching with what I'm earning from a side hustle. In reality, I hadn't got time to give to that side hustle to make it generate enough income to then leave my teaching career. And I think that's why I ended up handing my notice in, because I knew I needed time. I needed time for me to do the things that I wanted to do. And I couldn't fit that in around teaching. So I guess what I'm trying to say is make that choice. If that's something that you really want to do, go for it. Say to your partner, say to your family, I'm going to try it for 6 months and see if I can, make some changes. You can still earn money whilst you're doing that by doing supply or by finding another job role. If it doesn't work out and you really miss the classroom and actually you just want to go back to teaching, and once you've had a break from it, it's rekindled that passion and you want to go back, there are always teaching jobs to go back to. And you never know. The teaching job you go back to could be better than the one that you left. But nothing is forever. Everything changes. And at some point, maybe the universe is going to force you into that change if you're not quite ready to make the decision yourself. But what I'm trying to say is have faith. Have faith that everything will work out as it should, and what is meant for you will come to you. If you want to talk about this anymore, I would love for you to drop me some messages in my inboxes. It's always open and I love to talk. I'm guessing you've probably realised that from my podcast. But yeah, get in touch. Let's have a chat and I'll help you get unstuck and see if we can find the way forward together. The Teachers Compass membership is always open to new members. And don't forget, before the end of January, you can join at the founder's price of just £10 a month. £10 a month, that's nothing. That is less than 2 Costa coffees in a month. So use that money, spend it wisely, and join a community of teachers that understand what you're going through and can help and support you in making some changes and changing the direction of your life path from where it is currently right now. So get in touch, come and join the membership. Let's talk about this some more and get you to a point where you are happy and fulfilled and enjoying your life, where you can get up every morning with a smile on your face and think, I am looking forward to today. Because that's where I'm at right now. And it's only taken me a year, which isn't a very long space of time. So let's get that for you as well. Thanks for listening. And if you enjoy listening to the podcast, I'd love for you to leave us a review or share it on your socials so that more teachers can benefit. But thanks so much for listening. I'll talk to you again soon. Bye. Thanks so much for tuning in to the Teacher's Compass. If you found this episode helpful, click on the link in the show notes for some more resources and support. Don't forget to leave a review on whichever app you choose to listen to us on. Your feedback helps us to reach more teachers just like you. See you next time.